Whole Hog Sports presents the basketball podcast of Mid-America, the premier Arkansas Hoops podcast, brought to you by Landers Toyota of Northwest Arkansas. With Whole Hog Sports basketball analyst Scotty Bordelon, here's your host, Matt Jones.
Arkansas is 3-0, but all the games have been interesting. The Razorbacks beat Northern Iowa 93-80 on Wednesday night at Bud Walton Arena. Northern Iowa hit 17 three-pointers, and as Dudley wrote after the game, it's not very often that you see a team hit 17 threes on the road and leave without a win, but that's what happened. Arkansas was able to weather the storm, played pretty well in the second half, and had a big run at the end of the game, 21-5, including a 13-0 stretch in the final couple of minutes that helped them pull away from Northern Iowa. Next up for the Razorbacks is the Hall of Fame Classic, beginning Monday with a game against Kansas State in Kansas City. Matt Jones with Dudley Dawson of Hogs Illustrated, Scotty Bordelon, and Andrew Joseph from WholeHogSports.com. Scotty, let's start with you. You were there last night. What were your thoughts as the Razorbacks were able to pull away there in the second half?
I don't really know where to start. I mean, you can obviously go with Chris Likes, like had a 26-point game off the bench. Like that's exactly the kind of role I think Eric Musselman envisioned. He knows he's not going to get 20-plus points from him every time he pulls him off the bench and plays him, significant minutes. But if Chris is playing significant minutes, it probably does mean that, he's scoring the ball pretty well. That was the second time in his career he scored more than 20 in a game that he didn't start. And, he brought a lot of energy. And I think he scored 9 points in the first 4 minutes he was on the floor. That'll play, and that'll keep you in the lineup.
Dudley, you talked to Ben Jacobson after the game, the Northern Iowa head coach, and he was really impressed with the Razorbacks play.
Yeah, he was, and certainly he felt good about his team as well, being able to hit those 17 three-pointers that you saw, doing things that they were able to get in the lane, get the three-pointers off and knock them down, which is something they didn't really do their first 3 games of the season. But very impressed with Arkansas. He mentioned a lot of their players individually, but he also mentioned them in a team manner as playing well together, and how they have so many people that provide depth that he knew if they cut out one thing, some other guy was going to come along. He didn't expect Chris Likes to get 26, but he did expect Jalen Williams to have the all-around game that he did, and JD Notae to flirt with the triple-double. So it was very impressive. I think out of the 2 exhibitions and the 3 regular season games, it was their best so far in terms of overcoming adversity and doing what they had to do down the stretch to win a ball game.
When I saw Northern Iowa on the schedule, Dudley, it was like, whoa, okay. That kind of got my attention because I know how good this team has been. They're a really good team out of the Missouri Valley Conference. They've been in the NCAA tournament a lot over the years. Remember that game that they beat Texas on a half-court shot at the buzzer in the first or second round a few years ago. You listen to Eric Musselman and Anthony Ruda talk all the time about they want to schedule teams in November and December that are not only going to prepare them for the SEC, but that are also going to help them with their tournament resume. They did it last year with ORU and Abilene Christian in North Texas. And I really believe Northern Iowa is going to be one of those teams this year. And I'm not real sure that the first week of their season with the losses to Vermont and Nicholls State is indicative of what kind of team this is.
Yeah, this is a program that has, as our colleague Bob Holt told us last night, they've knocked off 2 number 1 teams in the in their program's history, while Arkansas has knocked off 1 when my buddy Charles Ballantyne hit a shot on the baseline to take down North Carolina. But it is a program that has won 25 games against Power 5 teams, or what is Power 5 teams, what they call now, in 15 years, and many of those have been over quality teams. So it was a much better win, I think, than a lot of people who maybe don't follow college basketball as close as we do, know about. I mean, he's been a great coach for them. They've had problems getting people to let them come play them. As Coach Musselman was mentioning last night, they have trouble scheduling. But not only did they play, Arkansas last night, but they forgot former Northwest Arkansas Times colleague Mike Vaccaro's St. Bonaventure Bonnies, number 21 team in the case in the nation. They're playing them up next. So, it's a quality program. It was a quality win. As you mentioned, Coach Musselman gives Anthony Ruda a lot of credit because all those teams that they played last year, that everybody at the start was going, oh, there's nothing to it. A bunch of them were in the NCAA, and it turned out to be a way to get Arkansas prepared for both the conference play and, postseason play.
I feel like too many people want to look at college basketball through the same lens that they look at college football, where you have a handful of halves, and then there's this big drop off, say, between the FBS and the FCS schools. In college basketball, it's not that way. There are a lot of schools that say are FCS football teams who can really play basketball. Chris Lykes scored 26 points last night, as Scotty mentioned. JD Notae, 13. There were 6 Razorbacks in double figures. Adise Toney had 13. Jalen Williams had 11. He had a little bit of an ankle injury that limited him in the second half, 10 points apiece for Devontae Davis and Stanley Amude. Davis was ejected. Andrew, you were in the postgame with Eric Musselman afterward last night. What were your thoughts from the game and listening to his reaction? He said that he thought Notae and Lykes, he used the word phenomenal to describe both of their play.
Yeah, I think through the 3 games this year, Arkansas basketball has kind of had 2 main questions about where they're going to go the rest of the season, and that's their backcourt, who's going to handle the ball, and their 3-point defense. And I think they've solved the backcourt issue. I think that was on display against Northern Iowa when Lykes and Notae had the ball. I think they're guys that can create instant offense, and I think they're probably going to have the ball in their hands more often than they're not. As far as the 3-point defense goes, I think they still have a lot to work on there. I will say a lot of the Panthers' threes that went in were contested, so I'm not sure how much of it was bad defense against good offense, but I will say Northern Iowa did not shoot the ball as well as they did against the Razorbacks against any of their previous 3 opponents this year. So that may be saying something about the defense, but they also just could have had one of those hot shooting nights. But I think Musselman in the press conference, as far as Lykes and Notae go, he mentioned they were phenomenal, as you said, and I think those are the 2 guys that I see carrying the offense, but they're going to have to guard the perimeter a little better.
I went back and tracked all of Northern Iowa's 3-point attempts, all their shot attempts, really, just to see how many of those shots that Arkansas didn't contest, and of all of their threes, Arkansas didn't contest only 5 of them. And Northern Iowa hit 2 of them. So hands were in the face a lot, but Northern Iowa just hit a lot of tough shots, man. Sometimes the other team's just cooking, no matter if you got the hand in the eyeball or, you're in a guy's airspace. Sometimes they just knock down tough shots.
And also, I think it's important to point out that they did play better defense in the second half. So against 3-pointers, Northern Iowa came out and hit their first one, but then they were 4 of 17 from the rest of the way on after that hot start.
I was talking to somebody who knows college basketball last night, and he said he thought Arkansas defended well on the perimeter. He said he thought Northern Iowa just did a lot of really good ball movement, a lot of set plays that got their players open. Said that he thought it was a really great coaching performance by Ben Jacobson. The perimeter defense, I think I've got him at 43 of 99 through 3 games. Sometimes you're going to run into teams that you're going to defend the 3 well, and they're going to hit threes. And I think last night maybe was a little bit of a combination of that. I think they defended well at times, and Northern Iowa just hit good shots. I think there were some times where Arkansas was out of position, and that gave Northern Iowa some open looks from the perimeter. But 43 of 99, that's not going to cut it. That type of percentage. I think that's I don't have the number in front of me. It's 40-something% the teams are hitting threes against the Razorbacks. How do you think they fix this, Scotty?
I don't know. That's a good question. Eric Musselman suggested, as he got up and left the press conference after last night's game, that he's got a few more drills on top of the weighted vest that they wear when they, put bricks in their hands and work on closeouts that way. So he's got something else coming for his guys in the next couple of days. I think it's just about urgency getting out to the perimeter. It's like, I don't know if I feel like we've seen guys like Stanley Amude. He gave up a team high 4 threes last night on 9 attempts. And sometimes I wonder if if some guys are just thinking too much defensively on, okay, I know this guy was in our defensive game plan, but I'm a little bit unsure about if he was a guy that they consider a red shooter who you've got to, you got to close out on in a hurry. And I just think there's a lot of thinking defensively. And, you're really at your best when you're not, and you're just playing really instinctual. But they've got to get better at, switching screens and just picking up ball handlers coming off of screens. I think that would make a huge difference.
I do think there's something to be said for team chemistry on defense individually. They have some guys who are playing pretty well defensively, especially JD Note, who had the big steal and ended up getting adored by his head coach for it. Almost had the triple double, as we said. But I do think the more they play together, the better they will play together team defense. And you cannot be slacking on rotations. You've got to going back to the Eddie Sutton days. You've got to guard a man and a half at times. You can't just guard your man. You got to know what's happening. On other areas of the court, not just your on ball defense. And I think as they continue to play together, that will help them out, and they'll get better at that.
Up next for Arkansas is Kansas State. By the way, Monday night in Kansas City. Right now, Kansas State is one of the top 25 three-point shooting teams in the country, 43.9%. They're making their threes. So that's going to be a really interesting challenge for the Razorbacks on Monday. Can their perimeter defense get better against a team that shoots the three-pointer really, really well?
Yeah, I know Kansas State has a transfer in from Mizzou, Mark Smith, who I believe led the SEC in three-point percentage 2 or 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll be keeping my eye on him and seeing how well they can stop him and run him off the three-point line.
Arkansas can't get away from the Smith brothers. It seems like every season there's a Smith brother somewhere that Arkansas has got to go against.
And I would also say that I don't know that Kansas State has played, the best schedule so far. They may turn out to be a very good team. Obviously, they're 3-0. Took out the Omaha Mavericks, which I think is a high school team that I went to see Jordan Walsh play at not too long ago. But I think both of these teams, and really all four of the teams that are in this event, which I think is a really nice event, both for fans to get to and in terms of competition and to get better, they're about to find out a lot about themselves, this quartet of teams.
The basketball podcast of Mid-America is brought to you by Landers Toyota of Northwest Arkansas. Visit them at their location on Metro Parkway in Rogers or at landerstoyotanwa.com.
For all your automotive needs, shop Landers Toyota NWA in Rogers, where we guarantee you the best buying experience and best service after the sale in Arkansas. Landers Toyota NWA in Rogers.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, Arkansas next week is going to play in the Hall of Fame Classic in Kansas City. They will play Kansas State first. That's going to be an 8 p.m. Central tip-off on Monday night from the T-Mobile Center in downtown Kansas City. It used to be called the Sprint Center. Now it's the T-Mobile Center. Kansas State and Arkansas will play on ESPN News. On Tuesday, Arkansas will play again, and the time will depend on whether they win or if they lose. If they lose, they'll play the early game Tuesday. If they win Monday night, they'll play the late game Tuesday. They will play either the winner or the loser of the Cincinnati-Illinois game on Monday night. That's going to be the early game in Kansas City. Of course, Illinois, number 10 in the AP poll this week. They're going to fall because they lost to Marquette earlier this week. But kind of like with Northern Iowa, who didn't have A.J. Green for those first two games when they lost to Nicholls State and Vermont. By the way, those are both conference favorites that Northern Iowa lost to in the first week. They didn't have one of their best players. Illinois hasn't had Kofi Coburn, their big 7-foot star from a year ago. And Scotty, he's going to make all the difference, I feel like, in Illinois. It's not going to be the same Illinois team if Arkansas ends up playing them on Tuesday that they're going to have tape on from the first couple, 3 games this year.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And Illinois dropped a game earlier this week, I think, after they moved to 10th in the AP poll. Illinois has got a lot of good guards. They've got, a really good young guard who I think he may have been on the all freshman team in the Big Ten last year. But Kofi Coburn he makes a world of difference for them. And you talk about a mountain of a man. He's like 7'1" or 7'2", and he's good 265, 270 pounds, and just a load for anybody to handle defensively. He was the number 1 pick and roll finisher in college basketball last year, according to Synergy, and he led the nation in dunks too. It's a good thing that Arkansas has got a little bit of extra time between now and a potential game on Tuesday to prepare for him, scout him, figure out what they want to do with him. Again, it's not certain that Arkansas is going to play Illinois. Like Illinois could lose their first game, or Arkansas could lose its first game. They could end up playing each other, and after they both lose their first game. So that's a really interesting matchup, hypothetically. Just to see what Arkansas would do with the guy of that size, because they clearly have not seen anybody as good as him or as big as him. And I think, if we are lucky enough to see that game, I think it's going to be, probably a by committee effort where, you bring in maybe a Kamani Johnson for a few minutes and see if you can throw some length at him. Stanley Amude will probably get a chance with him. Stanley's not the tallest guy, but he is sturdy. He's got a sturdy lower half, this strong guy. Figure we'll see some Connor Vanover too, Jalen Williams. You'll see everybody on him. So that's a really intriguing game, and that's a matchup that happens.
I'm looking forward to the first matchup for one reason. Marquise Noel, who used to be one of Little Rock's best players and one of Kamani Johnson's teammates, is a 5'7" quick guard that can shoot the three-pointer really well. Sounds like somebody that Arkansas has. It scored 26 last night, so I would imagine those two will be matched up at times, and it'll look a lot like me playing against somebody from Greene County Tech back in high school. But it's interesting. Kansas State appears to be better this year. As I said, they're 3-0. Only won 9 games last year. I didn't really realize that they had fallen off that much last year, but seemingly have brought in some transfers and have some veterans back that they feel better about. They barely beat Omaha at home last year, but this year beat them 79-64. So maybe that's a gauge of them being better.
We look at this through an Arkansas lens, obviously, and we think Arkansas-Illinois would be a great matchup. I think there are a lot of people who think that Kansas State-Illinois would be a really intriguing matchup because K-State is coached by Bruce Weber, who took Illinois to the national championship game in 2005. Of course, had a great run at Illinois, won over 200 games there. Dudley mentioned K-State. Remember in 2018, I think it was, they went to the Elite Eight. They got back to the tournament the next year. They've really had a down program the last 2 years, and there are some people who think that this is a make or break year for Weber. They went 11-21 in 2019-20. They wouldn't have made the tournament even if they would have played it that season. And then last year they were 9-20, including 4-14 in Big 12 play. They've only won 7 Big 12 games the last 2 years, and so this is a big game Monday night, I think, for Bruce Weber, because they're off to a good start. If they can beat Arkansas, a ranked team, that might, cool the hot seat talk a little bit.
It'll be interesting to see what the fans are like. Obviously, you've got 4 teams, and they're able to divvy up the tickets, but how many people from fans from Arkansas will make that travel? I mean, it's all pretty good, for all the 4 teams to get there, and that's why they're having this event there. But I'm going to be interested to see how much of a neutral site it is for these games, or does one of the teams, pile in a bunch of people? But Illinois, with its success, you would think would have the most dedicated fans to this point. But obviously, Arkansas's fans are very excited about their team as well, and just the Monday and Tuesday may not be the best time right before Thanksgiving for everybody to get out and go see it.
Don't discount the number of Arkansas fans that there are in the Kansas City and Southwest Missouri area who, might go up there and watch 1 or 2 of these games. It's been since 1995 that Arkansas played in Kansas City. When they beat Virginia in the Elite Eight to go to the 1995 Final Four, that was the last time that they played in Kansas City. They've never played in this building. And to your point, Dudley, I think with K-State, they're not going to bring fans like, say, KU would if KU was in this event. KU, when they play in Kansas City, that's like Arkansas playing in Little Rock. It's a bona fide home game for them. There'll be some K-State people there, I'm sure, but I don't know that it's going to be just an overwhelming fan base from one school to the next. Through 3 games, Arkansas has won over what we think are at least 2 pretty good opponents. Gardner-Webb, I think the verdict is still going to be out on Gardner-Webb, although they've got a pretty veteran team. They might do okay in their conference. Mercer, we think Mercer's going to be good this year. Obviously, we think Northern Iowa is going to be good. Your thoughts about Arkansas through 3 games? So we begin with you, Andrew.
Yeah, so they came into the season ranked 16th. I don't think they've played up to that ranking per se, but I also don't know that they've had the opportunity to. They're not blowing out teams. They're letting them hang around, and some teams you maybe wouldn't expect them to. But I think they've shown a lot of promise, and I think it's to be expected when you bring in as many new guys as Eric Musselman does each year, that it's going to take a little while for them to be a cohesive unit. And I think we've seen them kind of grow in these 3 games, and I expect them to look more comfortable together as the season goes on.
Hey, Coach Musselman made a case last night that of the things that were going wrong in exhibition games and maybe in the first game and a half of the regular season, that there were several things that they were doing wrong that he feels like they have really improved on. Obviously, the 3-point defense is the thing that he says will get taken care of, and so I think that we're seeing improvement. Are they Are they a top 15 team in the country? We'll see as it plays itself out. I think they have the opportunity to be, and Ben Jacobson, Northern Iowa's coach last night, seemed to think that, that this is a solid club that is going to keep getting better all the time. Again, when you make 17 3-pointers in a road arena and walk out with a loss, he was just shaking his head a little bit when we were doing what amounted to a pool interview last night with just me talking to him, but very complimentary of Arkansas. Obviously, Coach Musselman very complimentary of Northern Iowa. They're going to get better. How good can they be? Well, I don't think any of us at this time last year thought Arkansas would go to the Elite Eight. I don't think they're going to go to the Elite Eight, as I said here today, but I'm open to the fact that they're going to get better and could have a run at it.
Eric Musselman, when he spoke to our Hogs Illustrated luncheon, he said if you're a coach and you're not getting better, you're not doing your job. You don't expect the team to look in November like it's going to look in March. And I've made this comment before that I think Arkansas, under Musselman, Arkansas is as good as any program at developing throughout the season. It's almost like it reminds me a little bit, Dudley, of Bobby Petrino when he was the football coach. He was a great on the field coach, and their teams got better throughout the season quite often under him, even in the year where they didn't make a bowl game. I think you see that with Musselman right now. They get a lot better from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, and they look like a completely different team by the end.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think in regards to Coach Petrino, he, there was no doubt about him whatsoever as an on-field coach. His teams got better. His quarterbacks got better as the year went along. The offense got better. I think that's similar to what Arkansas needs to happen. While they had pretty good point guard play last night, only had 5 turnovers throughout a game when you scored 93 points is very impressive. But that, they need to continue for those point guards to be facilitators as well as scorers. I thought that happened last night, certainly after they fell down and in the first half. But I think, that's one of Coach Musselman's big deals is the team getting better throughout the year. We certainly saw that happen last year, and he makes it clear, and we know nobody's going to outwork him, that they're going to continue to focus on the deficiencies that they do have. So I suspect that'll be shored up. It'll be interesting to see, as we were mentioning, a team that shoots the 3 ball really well. Are they as talented as that? Can you force them off the line? That's a big thing you have to do with Kansas State. If you force them off the 3-point line, then Arkansas should have a pretty solid win.
Again, Arkansas is going to play Kansas State Monday night in Kansas City. They will play either Illinois or Cincinnati on Tuesday in Kansas City. Scotty's going to be there for us, and he's going to be covering it at wholehogsports.com. So make sure to stop by the website and take a look at his coverage. Come by the website today and look at our coverage from last night's game against Northern Iowa. Dudley, as we mentioned, talked with Ben Jacobson afterward. Lots of intriguing thoughts from Jacobson on the Razorbacks and his team. Scotty wrote on the play of J.D. Note. Scotty also yesterday wrote a real intriguing piece on the passing of Jalen Williams and what a good facilitator he's been through the first couple of games for the Razorbacks this season. After Arkansas plays Cincinnati or Illinois on Tuesday, they'll be back in Fayetteville next Sunday for a game against Penn at Bud Walton Arena. Eric Musselman says that he likes to give his teams a lot of different looks in the non-conference play, and Penn That'll be a really unique look. We'll be back with another basketball podcast of Mid-America next week to talk about what we saw from the Razorbacks in the Hall of Fame Classic. For Dudley Dawson, Andrew Joseph, and Scotty Bordelon, I'm Matt Jones. Thanks for joining us.
The proceeding has been a production of WholeHogSports.com. Look for our latest podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite podcast store. And visit us anytime at WholeHogSports.com for the latest news and commentary.